Behavior of birds. Picture this. It's a crisp morning in ancient Rome, the sun barely peeking over the horizon. The streets are eerily quiet, save for the soft patter of sandaled feet as a group of solemn men make their way to the sacred hill. These aren't just any men, oh no. These are the Augurs, the chosen few who hold the fate of Rome in their trembling hands. As they ascend the hill, the air grows thick with anticipation. The lead augur, his wrinkled face etched with the weight of responsibility, raises his crooked staff to the heavens. "O Jupiter," he intones, his voice cracking with emotion, "grant us a sign." And then, silence. The world holds its breath, waiting, watching. Suddenly, a screech pierces the air. A majestic eagle soars overhead, its wingspan casting a shadow over the assembled crowd. But wait, what's this? The eagle is flying from left to right, a good omen. The augur's eyes widen, his heart racing. "The gods smile upon us," he cries, his voice echoing across the 7 hills of Rome. But hold on to your togas, folks, because augury wasn't always sunshine and rainbows. Oh no, sometimes it was downright terrifying. Imagine, if you will, a general on the eve of battle, his palms sweaty, his stomach churning. He calls for the augur, desperate for a sign of victory. The augur arrives, his face grim. He casts his eyes to the sky, searching, hoping. And then, horror. A flock of ravens, black as night, descends upon the camp, their caws like the laughter of vengeful spirits. The general's face turns ashen. This can mean only one thing. Certain doom awaits on the battlefield. Now you might be thinking, come on, surely they didn't take this bird-watching business that seriously? Oh, but they did, my friends. They did indeed. In fact, the practice of augury was so deeply ingrained in Roman society that it influenced everything from military campaigns to political decisions. Take, for example, the case of Publius Claudius Pulcher, a Roman consul in 249 BCE. Picture the scene. A naval battle against Carthage is imminent. The stakes couldn't be higher. Pulcher, eager for glory, orders the sacred chickens to be brought forth. Yes, you heard that right. Sacred chickens. These weren't your average barnyard fowl. Oh no. These birds were believed to carry messages directly from the gods. The ritual begins. Grain is scattered before the chickens, and everyone waits with bated breath. If the chickens eat eagerly, it's a good sign. If they refuse, well, let's just say it's time to batten down the hatches. But the chickens, perhaps sensing the gravity of the situation, refuse to eat. Pulcher, his face red with rage, his ego bruised, does the unthinkable. In a fit of pique, he grabs the sacred birds and hurls them into the sea, bellowing, "If they won't eat, let them drink." Gasps of horror ripple through the crowd. The sailors exchange fearful glances. Surely the gods will not let this sacrilege go unpunished. And indeed they don't. The battle is a catastrophic defeat for Rome, with Pulcher barely escaping with his life. But let's rewind a bit, shall we? How did this fascinating, sometimes frightening practice come to be? Well, buckle up, because we're about to take a trip way back to the misty origins of Rome itself. Legend has it that when Romulus and Remus, the mythical founders of Rome, were deciding where to build their city, they turned to augury to settle their dispute. Romulus took his position on the Palatine Hill, Remus on the Aventine. They waited, watching the skies, each hoping for a sign that would prove their chosen site was favored by the gods. Suddenly, Remus saw 6 vultures. He was elated. Surely this was the sign he'd been waiting for. But before he could celebrate, Romulus spotted 12 vultures circling over the Palatine. The decision was made. Rome would be built on the Palatine Hill, and Romulus would be its first king. From that moment on, augury became an integral part of Roman life. It wasn't just a quaint superstition, oh no. It was a deadly serious business, with its own college of priests, elaborate rituals, and strict rules. The Augurs, you see, were no ordinary priests. They were the intermediaries between gods and men. the interpreters of the divine will. And let me tell you, it wasn't a job for the faint of heart. One wrong interpretation could lead to disaster, military defeats, political upheavals, even the fall of entire dynasties. But how exactly did these augurs go about their bird-watching business? Well, let me paint you a picture. Imagine a solemn procession making its way to a high point in the city, perhaps the Capitoline Hill. The augur, dressed in his distinctive toga with a purple border, carries his lituus, a curved staff that was the symbol of his office. Upon reaching the designated spot, the augur would mark out a sacred space called the templum. This wasn't a physical temple, mind you, but a conceptual space in the sky. He would then sit facing east, waiting for the birds to appear. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. The augur wasn't just looking at any old birds. Oh no. Different species had different significances. Eagles and vultures were particularly important. They were considered messengers of Jupiter himself. But it wasn't just about the type of bird. The direction they flew, the sounds they made, even the way they ate. All of these factors played a role in the interpretation. For instance, a bird flying from left to right was generally considered a good omen. Right to left? Not so much. Birds appearing in pairs? Excellent. A lone bird? Time to start worrying. But wait, there's more. The augurs also paid attention to other natural phenomena. Thunder and lightning were particularly significant. In fact, if it thundered while the augur was taking the auspices, the whole process had to be abandoned and started over. Talk about performance anxiety. Now you might be thinking, surely this is all just superstition? Surely the Romans didn't really believe in all this. But oh, my friends, they did. They believed with a fervor that's hard for us to comprehend in our modern, skeptical age. Take, for example, the case of Gaius Flaminius. It's 217 BCE, and Rome is locked in a deadly struggle with Hannibal and his Carthaginian forces. Flaminius, a Roman consul, is eager to engage the enemy. But there's a problem. The omens are bad. Very bad. First, the sacred chickens refuse to eat. Then, as Flaminius is mounting his horse to lead his troops into battle, he's thrown to the ground. And if that wasn't enough, when the standard-bearer tries to pull the legion's standard from the ground, it won't budge. It's stuck fast, as if the earth itself is trying to warn them. But Flaminius, like Pulcher before him, ignores these warnings. He marches his troops to Lake Trasimene, where Hannibal is waiting. The result? A crushing defeat for Rome, with Flaminius himself among the slain. Stories like these serve to reinforce the importance of augury in Roman society. It wasn't just about predicting the future. It was about maintaining the pax deorum, the peace with the gods. The Romans believed that if they performed the correct rituals and heeded the warnings sent by the gods, they would be rewarded with success and prosperity. But here's the really fascinating thing. Augury wasn't just a religious practice. It was deeply intertwined with Roman politics and law. In fact, it was often used as a political tool. A clever politician could use augury to delay unfavorable legislation or prevent an opponent from holding an assembly. Imagine the scene: the Roman Forum, packed with citizens. A controversial law is about to be voted on. Suddenly, an augur steps forward. "I have observed the sky," he announces gravely, "and the signs are unfavorable. This assembly must be dissolved immediately." And just like that, the assembly would be over. No vote, no law passed. It was a powerful tool in the hands of those who knew how to use it. But as with all power, it was open to abuse. There were accusations of augurs being bribed to give favorable or unfavorable readings. Some skeptics even suggested that the whole practice was nothing more than a political trick. Cicero, the famous Roman orator and politician, wrote about augury in his work De Divination. He was an augur himself, but he had some, shall we say, interesting views on the practice. He suggested that while augury was important for maintaining tradition and social order, it wasn't actually a reliable method of predicting the future. In one particularly spicy passage, Cicero writes, How can two augurs pass each other in the street without laughing? It's a tantalizing glimpse into the mind of a Roman insider, suggesting that perhaps not everyone took the practice as seriously as they pretended to. But regardless of what the skeptics thought, augury remained an important part of Roman life for centuries. It survived the transition from republic to empire, adapting and evolving along the way. Under the emperors, the practice of augury became even more elaborate. The emperor himself was often the chief augur, adding religious authority to his political power. Imagine the scene. The emperor, resplendent in his purple robes, standing atop the Palatine Hill. He raises his arms to the sky, and as if on cue, a flock of birds appears. The crowd gasps in awe. Is there anything the emperor can't do? But as with all things, augury eventually began to decline. As Rome's power waned and new religions began to take hold, the old practices started to lose their grip on the popular imagination. By the time of Constantine in the 4th century CE, Christianity was on the rise, and the old pagan practices were falling out of favor. In 381 CE, Emperor Theodosius I officially banned pagan practices, including augury. And so, the sacred chickens were retired, the augurs hung up their lituus, and the skies over Rome fell silent, at least as far as divine messages were concerned. But the legacy of augury lives on. Its influence can be seen in the superstitions that persist to this day. Ever knock on wood for luck? That's a distant echo of the ancient practice of augury. Worried about a black cat crossing your path? You're channeling the spirit of those ancient Roman augurs, looking to the natural world for signs and portents. So the next time you see a bird soaring overhead, take a moment to think about those ancient augurs. Think about the power they held, the fate of empires that rested on their interpretations, and who knows? Maybe, just maybe, that bird has a message for you too. And there you have it, folks. The thrilling, chilling, sometimes spilling, those poor sacred chickens, tale of augury in ancient Rome. A practice that shaped history, toppled kings, and kept everyone looking to the skies. It's a reminder of the power of belief, the weight of tradition, and the enduring human desire to know what the future holds. As we close our eyes and picture those ancient augurs, their faces turned expectantly to the sky, we can almost hear the whisper of wings, the cry of an eagle, the caw of a raven. And for a moment, just a moment, we too might feel that the secrets of the universe are written in the flight of birds, waiting for those who know how to read them. So keep your eyes on the skies, my friends. You never know what signs the birds might bring. And remember, if you're ever in ancient Rome and someone offers you some sacred chickens, maybe just stick to the pasta.